Alrighty, guys, another episode of Shellonomics. I am here with Bryan Lanham, who is the creator of this Ninja Turtle Miata racing car you see dead center here. Bryan, how you doing tonight?
Mike, I'm doing good. How are you?
Fantastic here. I loved I found this Facebook post in a Turtles Collector's Lair, and it got tons of likes, and I'm like, I got to reach out to this guy. People need to know the story about this car and where they can find it live to race. So, Bryan, you obviously are a big Turtle fan. I can see the hat, the shirt. Were you first introduced to Ninja Turtles?
So Mike, I'll mention that I was born back in 1988. So the original cartoon was my introduction to the Ninja Turtles. Arguably the best Ninja Turtle series that's been out. I remember growing up. I think I might have been in like second or third grade when the real movies started coming out. I gotta say though, like I was a big fan of the cartoons. I remember watching the movies as a kid, but I couldn't really remember them. But I'll say we got a little inspiration on having to build this car, and so I had to go back and I had to remind myself about these movies, and I got to rewatch them, and I was not disappointed.
Excellent. So on your Instagram page, this is Miata Racing. Can you explain for those like myself who do not know what Miata Racing is, what that entails?
Okay, so let me explain that a little bit better. So what this is the series that I race this car in is called the 24 Hours of Lemons, and so I race a Miata, but for this racing series, you can race anything. And when I say anything, it really is anything that is $500 or cheaper. Now, Mike, that's a pretty controversial thing whenever you start thinking about $500 or cheaper, especially, if anybody's bought a car in the last 10 years, you realize things just aren't $500. So that's, you could say it's kind of a loose rule, or, some of their rules will be if you buy a $2,000 car and you can sell $1,500 worth of parts on it, well, then you have a $500 car. And that's kind of, this is my second build. This is not, I mean, all of them are my favorite, but this one is just kind of touched me in a way. This has been one of my all-time favorites. Me and my team, we love racing this car when it behaves.
So you did say this is your second car. What was your first car build like?
So we first joined the series back in 2001. My first build was a 1998 Subaru wagon. So my Subaru wagon, we bought the car, then we thought, okay, well, this racing series requires you to have a theme, and to go along with your theme, you need costumes with it too. The better you do with your theme and your costumes, the better chances you have at letting the judges put you in lower brackets. So that way you can really compete with cars maybe lesser than you. Well, we were probably the slowest car out there anyway, so we were at the dead bottom anyway. However, so our 1998 Subaru wagon, I built that out to look like the Ghostbuster. Ecto-1 from the Ghostbuster series. Nice. So I guess you could say I have a little running theme for my 90s nostalgia and building race cars. But that's kind of the big thing that I like to do. I like building cars that are iconic, recognizable, and you can imagine in a series like this, they do 25 races around the U.S., and you've got 100 participants at every race. So a lot of themes keep getting repeated. So you need something that's semi-original, something that, if you're going to do something that's been done before, you better make it good. So the first Subaru Ghostbuster, it was not very good. I spent all of my money, effort, and time just getting the car there. The paint looked okay. The props on it were mediocre at best. And when you're driving 100 miles an hour down the track and things start flying off, they start telling you, hey, you need to take all this junk off the top of your Subaru because we're not trying to kill everybody on the track. So
Oh, well, I hear you loud and clear in regards to wanting to stand out and be original. It's similar if you go to a Comic-Con, right? And you keep seeing the same cosplayer. Like Harley Quinn was popular for a while. And it's like, look, there's about 20 different Harley Quinns here. Some have the mallet, some don't. So I hear where you're coming from on how you want to stand out. So what hit you on head where it's like, you know what? I want to go Turtles. What like called to have this, project started?
Well, that's a great question. Um, so once we had decided that the Subaru was just going to be a little too heavy with it being a wagon and naturally aspirated being only like 120 horsepower for like a, I don't know, a little over 3,000 pound car, we said we either got to add power or we got to shred weight. Now, the Subaru Ghostbuster, once I had finished it after about 2.5 years, it looked really, really good. So I didn't want to start taking things off of it to shred weight. So I wound up selling the Ghostbuster. Um, a really good friend of mine, CJ Odom, who actually races a proper Miata, a supercharged Miata. He was like, man, listen, a Miata is a really good platform. And you see them all through the Lemon series, so you're not going to get penalized. I was like, okay, well, Miatas could be fun. They're pretty easy to work on. So we went out and found 1991 Mazda Miata. I actually had a 1990 Miata shortly before we started this race, and I really fell in love with it. So I was like, yeah, we could race this platform. I seem to know it pretty well. So you start looking at the car and you kind of let the car speak to you with its shapes. You start thinking, judges like silly props on the car. If you put something on top of the car that's big and obnoxious, you could really, judges love seeing it. Spectators love seeing it. It's pretty hilarious. The Miata, I was like, I kind of bounced across a couple ideas. Could we do Hot Wheels? That would be kind of fun, but what hasn't been done, you start looking at 90s iconic cars. There's, the Batmobile, but that's way overplayed. You don't want to do Dukes of Hazzard again. So then I really started looking at it and started, I have to go through Google Images and just start looking up 90s iconic cars, and really you got to start going through like page 8 or 9 because again, you don't want the most common thing. And the party wagon pulled up, and I sat there and I looked at it. It's almost that like Volkswagen shaped van where it's got almost like a little bit of a rounded nose where the shell is up on the front. It's got the grin in the front, which a Miata has been notorious for having a smile. The Miata also has eyeballs with the pop-up headlights. And so I was just like, oh man, like I can almost start to see this layout on the Miata. And then I started to think, I was like, okay, what's really going to have to sell this is if I can do the shell in the front. Now, how can I do the shell in the front? And it had clicked to me. Like 2 days later, I was like, oh, you know what? I was like, I grew up playing in the sandboxes that, were the turtles.
Yes.
The turtle sandbox for people who didn't have big yards and that had that shell on it. I said, if I could find one of those shells and trim around the edges just a little bit, pop that right on the hood, it would give it something that the judges could see, but it wouldn't make the car unaerodynamic. So I was like, okay, before we go through with this paint job, let me get that shell. Let me make sure it's going to fit on here and not look ridiculous. Now, obviously, it looks ridiculous, but I mean, like, it's not going to like go past your body lines or something like that.
100%.
So we just popped it on, and I was like, this works with every line on the car. And once I put that on, you could see the whole car just coming together. You could see the grin. You could see how the green kind of comes over the sides and rolls back over the doors. And I was like, yeah, this is something we're gonna push forward, and it gives you a great opportunity to have your costumes, and you don't have to go out and you don't have to try and make something brand new, because I mean, man, even like the Ghostbuster costumes, even when we had to find those things, it's like, okay, well, we can get a costume for $100, but if you really want to go cosplay level, I mean, you could spend up to $1,000 on a really good costume. You know what I mean? So
No, 100%. So how long did this project take to come to be? Like, again, my dad actually was an auto body painter, so I am familiar with how long, painting can take. It might take multiple times to get it right. How many people also were on this project to help contribute, or was this just a one-man show in regards to getting the paint, the hubcaps? And that's a really cool fact about that sandbox. Now I'm really thinking back. It was that big green turtle sandbox, right? That big green one with the big blue eyes or whatever.
absolutely, that's
Wow,
it.
that's cool. Okay.
Uh, so you know, so we did our last race with the Ghostbuster in April. We brought it home, and about 2 weeks later, we kind of decided, okay, it's time for the Ghostbuster to go to its new home. So I went on the 24 Hours of Lemons forum. So if anybody's ever looking to do this sport, you can go onto the 24 Hours of Lemons forum page, and you can buy pre-built race cars, because it actually is a pretty lengthy process to build and to pass tech inspection. Which when I built the Ghostbuster, it was me building it. I had financial help from the rest of my team, but it really was just me in my shop with my MIG welder and my own two hands, and building and painting, doing everything. So when we finished racing in April, we sold the Ghostbuster, and then in May I bought the Miata, and it didn't run. It had flat tires. Um, it was busted. It looked terrible. We really literally rolled it out of a field onto a trailer, and I brought it home and just started disassembling everything. And then we fast forward to it, and with financial help from my team, with actual, like, it was me and my wife in the shop for weekends on weekends on weekends, tearing everything apart, sanding things down, repainting things, figuring out what we needed to pass tech inspection. You got to have all your safety gear. We got to make sure the car is going to operate. So this requires us to go 3 hours, we'll say, to Asheville to go pick up some coilovers. And you know what? Since we're going to Asheville, let's take my 4-year-old and 13-year-old to Asheville, and we'll take a little mini vacation out of it. That's what happens a lot of times when I have to go do parts runs out of town. Is we'll just take the whole family and we'll just go spend a day or two out of town. But really, selfishly, it's so that I can buy car parts for my race car. They don't seem to mind, though. They enjoy the trip.
Oh, now while you're driving to get parts, are you driving this car to get the parts?
Oh no,
Okay.
absolutely not.
Okay.
Nope. Now, a little side detour. I do like my cars to be street legal, because I like to take them for, like, if I want to take them to a local parade, or if I take them to local car shows, or to church trunk or treats. They make excellent trunk or treat candidates. So I do like my cars to be street legal, and this one is street legal. So we'll say from about May was when I started working on building it, and then we had it racing again next April. So 11 months was the total build from scrap to racetrack.
Oh, wow. And I'm pretty sure I know the reason why now after talking to you, but can you tell us why you have the number 2 on your car?
So the Ghostbuster was number 25 because that was a 2.5 liter engine. Number 2 for this one, simply because by the time we signed up for the race, okay, it was between two numbers. It was between number 2 or number 314. Any nerds can guess why 314?
I'm sure somebody will be able to comment that when they listen to this on Spotify and YouTube. I guarantee it, Brian.
So that's the number for pie. So I was like, okay, pizza pie, Ninja Turtle, maybe, but the longer the number on it, my wife actually is the one who builds the stencils, and I was like, you know what, two's the second car, 2 is easy, let's just stick with 2. So that was it. Wasn't a whole lot of thought into it, other than the fact it was just the last good single digit number. I tried to look for like 88 because that's when I was born. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Ninja Turtles comic was that 86 or 87?
Let's see. So original comic came out in 84. The television show,
84.
I believe, was, I want to say it was either 87 or 89, one of them. I think it was 87, and the toys came out in 89 off the top of my head, something like that. But I know 84 is when they originated, because they just celebrated their 40th anniversary.
I see. Okay. So I remember pulling those up and trying to find one of those significant numbers with the Turtles, and just everything was taken. So I was like, okay, well, 2 seems easy. Let's just go with number 2. Mm-hmm.
What is the car's overall record so far? Like, how many races have you been featured in?
So for this Miata particular, we did April. We did that at Carolina Motorsports Park, and then this last December we did Road Atlanta, which is most of the photos you see for this podcast. That's the one we were at Road Atlanta. The one we were at in April, we spent the whole first day of racing repairing the car. It was a beautiful April day in South Carolina. The weather was perfect. Everybody was out racing. 3 laps in, I start losing power. We bring the car into the pits. We diagnose this, we diagnose that. We're trying to troubleshoot things. Nothing's making sense. Why it's not starting. It seems like timing, but it doesn't make sense because all of our timing marks are in place. And by the end of the day, I mean, it was literally 7 hours of us trying to figure it out. And by the end of the day, everybody came off the track. And I was like, guys, like, I'm tired of trying to figure out this car. Like, I'm going to just have to buy a new engine. I've already come up to terms with that. So my buddy CJ, he was like, let me try one more thing. Let me just check one more thing. And I was like, man, if you're willing to check one more thing, then I'll check it too. Let's go for it. He and I are kind of like the mechanics on this crew. So we go back through, we dig into it one more time, and he looks at the top of the engine with the valve cover off. I'll get a little technical. He looks at the cams, and he's like, these cams aren't 180 degrees out. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And he goes, something seriously wrong. So he looks, and he finds out that the cam gear that runs off the cam belt has broken and sheared itself off of the cam shaft, which we wouldn't have noticed if he hadn't just been able to spot it. Long story short, we align it back again. There's a pin that's supposed to keep it in alignment, but that had broken and sheared off. That was the big problem. So we place it back. We just tighten the bolt as tight as we can. We put the valve cover back on. We test it. And lo and behold, that night it cranks up and it runs. So we said, okay, great. Now we can race Sunday, our second day. And guess what? Nothing but rain. Just rain, and like 3 inches of puddles. And we still race. Everybody goes out there and races. I don't know how, because Mike, I'll tell you this. I was I let everybody else on my team race that day because I wanted to make sure my crew members got to actually drive the car. And by the time it came back to my turn again, it had been close to like noon. And so I get in the car and I go do 2 or 3 laps. And with the traction, with the way these tires are, how little traction there is whenever it's cold and wet, they're designed to grab hot. So when it's cold and wet, they will not grab. And I'm just drifting around this track with like 100 other race cars, and it terrifies me to death. So I was like, you know what? Get me off of this track right now. So I came back and I was like, you know what? If y'all are good with it, y'all go race. And they said, yeah, we're good with it. So that race, we came, let's see, I think there were 80 participants. We came in 60th. Now, when we went down to Road Atlanta, we did much better. The car ran much better Saturday and Sunday. We had good dry days of racing. and we came top 10 in our class. We were class B, and we were 10th. So that's huge for us. We had never come that close because I kind of really honestly got into the sport. You mentioned it earlier. It's kind of like cosplay meets Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of people take this sport too seriously, but once you really kind of buy a car that's kind of as fast as ours, and you can keep up, and you can finally start passing people, you kind of start like getting the itch, like you really want to start competing. So this last December, we really wanted to compete and see what we could do, and for us to get top 10 in our class was huge for us.
Gosh.
So,
Well, how fitting is it that your first race was in April, being a Ninja Turtle car? Am I right?
I didn't even realize that. That's good.
Oh man. Well, Bryan, guys, has given us permission to.
Absolutely. Pepperoni's the best. Quick question. Do you think the Turtles would approve of pineapple on pizza?
Me personally, no. I know it's a split on my Twitch feed and my YouTube feed. It usually goes 50-50. And for those listening, if you're ever looking for, whether, like to break the ice, whether you're on a date or just with your buddies, ask does pineapple belong on pizza? The conversation can go on for days.
There you go. Okay. Well, then I will not... I'll have an opinion and I'll keep it to myself then.
No problem. If you're a pineapple guy, it's okay. It's okay. Like I say, there's about
pepperoni and jalapeno for me, and maybe bacon as well. Let's see, how did that happen? So you look at the photo of the turtle van. What am I thinking? Turtle van. What's the official name of the turtle van? I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, turtle
party wagon.
Yeah, turtle van, party wagon. Yeah, it depends on where you're getting it from, right?
Okay, so looking at the party wagon, and it's got the pizza wheels, and so I think I had 3 people reach out to me on Instagram that were like, if you're going to do this thing and this is what you're basing it off of, you have to do the pizza wheels. And I was like, oh no, I don't know how I'm gonna do that. Like, I know you can like hydro dip wheels and make it look like special, but I don't have any skill set for that. I don't know anyone that does that. I started like my painting skills. That's the best paint job I can do. It's not bad, but like especially from like 40, 50 feet away, it looks pretty good. So I really was like, I don't want to have to paint these wheels and try and make them look like pizzas. So I was like, let me think about it. And so about 2 weeks later, I decided, went to Lowe's, and they had what's like this. It's almost like cardboard, built like cardboard, but it's like a plastic, and it's corrugated. And I was like, you know what? This is lightweight. This should be perfect. I can cut a perfect little circle. I can paint that, make it look like a pizza, and then we'll zip tie it to the spokes. Now, I'll tell you that we do not race with the pizza wheels. That's just for like the car shows and the pre-events and things like that, because I need my brakes to be able to breathe. Otherwise, we're going to have brakes on fire. But but we do have the pizza wheels. I got those on hot reserve in case we ever do car shows. Just break them out and zip tie them to the wheels.
Very, very nice touch. Let's see. We're going to also pull up the Michael. Now, this is a Mikey helmet, right? That's orange, right? This is a Mikey helmet here we got pulling up.
That's right. That's right. So, a Michelangelo helmet, because I'm thinking about if I want to drive this on the streets, or if I'm going to drive it to a car show, we were building this car, and I actually had it operational by like the beginning of October. And so I was sitting there thinking, I was like, if I take this to a trunk or treat, I would like to be able to dress in my Mikey outfit, but I need a helmet. I need a face. I need something that people can see going down the road, and they're just going to be like, that's a, because my helmet's about the size of a Ninja Turtle face.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, what can I do? So I was like, if I go through and I paint it, like really paint it, like the lens, like I'm gonna just have to have a replacement lens because I think even if I try to get the paint off later, it's probably just going to scratch it and mar it up. But once I went through and I found that replacement lenses were not that expensive, I was like, okay, we're going to pull the trigger on this. So paint the whole lens orange, tape out a couple spots for the eyeballs, and then paint the back of it white, and then put it on and roll with it. And then everybody's like, "Can you see with it?" No, cannot see. Here, I got it right here.
Oh, perfect. So it's almost like the Ninja Turtle movie where they couldn't see jack squat out of their costumes. Oh, wow. Yeah, good luck.
You got nothing.
Oh, man. Well, thanks for that. I appreciate that, Bryan, checking it out.
Yeah, being able to take my kids to it. That's if the kids didn't enjoy it, my wife hated it. Like it is so many times I'm on the Lemons pages, and so many we'll say dads or so many people want to do this kind of sport, and if your spouse is just not on board with it, I understand it. I get why you can't do it if your spouse is not on board, and thankfully I'm blessed that my wife is 100% in support. She's gone to a couple of these races with me and she's all in. She likes dressing up. She likes going and meeting people. There are enough wives out there at this sport where she's going and she's making friends, but and she's great friends with everybody else on my team. So I'm very thankful that her and my kids just all of them are about it. This car is street legal. I can go and pick up my daughter from school, and when I had the Ghostbuster, I went to go pick up my daughter on Halloween one year, and a lot of kids are pointing at my car. And then I realized about 20 cars behind me is a orange Lamborghini. But the kids don't stop pointing at the Ghostbuster because that's not something you see every day. So in my mind, I felt like I won. At least I'm gonna stick to that gun at least.
I would say so. We got your main page up on your Instagram. From this to this, just congratulations on your passion, your vision. I mean, it's just a lot of dedication there, Bryan, and it seems like it's a great success. My next question for you is, what are your future plans and goals with this car?
Okay. So I'll mention this last Atlanta race, we blew up the engine. We had maybe about 10 minutes left of the race, and my driver brings it in and says it's low on power. It's making a ticking noise. So we checked the oil. The oil decided it was not going to stick around for the end of the race. So I was like, oh no. But, it's already low on power and it's making ticking noises. So I made the call. I said, hey, let's put a gallon of oil back in this thing and we'll send it back out. We'll get this checkered flag. We fought too hard for it. So we put in the oil, we send them back out. He gets us our checkered flag. He brings it back in. This thing's knocking hard. We bring it home. We drain the oil, and there's just glitter all in the oil. And if you're a car person, that means that the engine is toast. It's gone. So what we're going to do now is something that not a lot of people have done. A lot of the guys on my team reached out and they said, listen, we want to do something that's uncommon. I was like, well, that's kind of my nature. A lot of things we've been doing this far has been uncommon. They said, let's go with this engine swap. They said, let's take an engine out of a Hayabusa, 200 mile an hour bike, a Suzuki Hayabusa, and let's put that engine into the Miata. It's more powerful, it's lighter, and it has it's going to sound insane. It's going to sound like an Indy car. And I said, that's not a lot of people do it. We could do one of these easier engine swaps. And they said, no, let's go outside the box. Let's do something different. And I said, okay. So currently that's what we're working on. We have a Hayabusa engine sitting in my shop right now. I just removed from a motorcycle. We got a kit on the way to do the swap. And that's really going to, if this car didn't stand out before, now it's going to stand out. in a crowd. It's going to sound insane. It's going to look insane. And we're just going to keep racing. We're going to keep having fun. We're going to keep trying new things. You know, it's a big breath of fresh air whenever I go to these pages, like the this last Facebook page where you found me, and I get 1,600 people that like and appreciate the build, and I'm like, okay, you know, if that many people like it, I need to keep pushing it. Like people are enjoying this, not just me and my inner circle, but I'm letting it out on the web, and it's getting a big response. So I'm kind of hoping that we'll see its popularity grow, and then I'll just continue to thank all the fans and everybody else around me for supporting the dream that I get to go out and build race cars and race cars and just meet great people. So,
well, all the Turtle fans are pulling for you, Bryan, 100%. So if people wanted to see this car live in race, or do you bring this to Comic-Cons? And also, please plug all your socials on where people can find this, because I know you're going to be giving us updates on your Instagram, you know, as you do a little more creativity and when you're racing next. So please plug all your socials and where people can find this car to race live next.
Comic-Cons would be something I would love to start doing. I've never done one before, but it seems like the right event for this kind of a car and for the kind of thing that we like to do. So maybe that will be in our near future. However, our plans right now for the car is we plan on doing the Carolina Motorsports Park race every April. We try to make it to the Road Atlanta race every December. If anybody's interested in racing in this series and has questions, they can reach out to me. I'm on Instagram at Lemon Yada. So just look for me there. I'll keep trying to post everything that we're working. I always try to keep updates on where the build process is. I like to show everybody, you know, exactly what we're going through with this build. So if you're interested, follow me. And maybe I'll see you at a Comic-Con. If you see my car, honk at me.
Definitely. So as we bring this in for a landing, Bryan, what would you say to those listening now who, you know, in regards to this is one of your dreams and you saw this in your head and you brought it to fruition. So for those who are listening and they have something like this, where whether it's to be a, you know, some sort of race car or some sort of painting, I mean, what would you say? Because this is not easy. This, like you already said, this took months to not only get ready, but with all those little mishaps, you didn't give up. You kept, you kept pulling through. So what would you say to those listening out? Any advice you can give those ladies and gents and anybody listening?
Well, this is certainly something that if you did not enjoy it, if you didn't enjoy getting your hands dirty, if you didn't enjoy the puzzle that is building a car and trying to read the rules and making sure you're staying within the rules, I've never done anything quite like this in my life as far as building something like this. But this was something that just kind of called to me. It seemed like something fun that I would certainly enjoy. I really needed support in the beginning from some of my friends. You know, it's a pretty big financial burden. So I was, you know, reaching out to my buddies. I'm like, if I do this, will you promise you'll be with me there to like not let me fall financially? Like I can't let this financially break me. And I had a couple friends that were just like, yeah, I'm gonna be there with you. I'm gonna be there with you. And it turns out it wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was. But just and like I said, it's such a headache and it's such a burden and it's so many hours doing it. But that's just what I enjoy. And if what you enjoy is something that everybody else doesn't enjoy, well, you know, that's okay. Just find the thing that you really love doing and just, you know, let that passion just keep burning and keep pushing. And then you'll start to learn what you can really do. People aren't going to quite understand until you've finished with a project just how good it all comes together. But you know what? That's okay, because you know how good it'll be, because you can see it in your head. So just keep sticking with it.
Well said. Bryan, appreciate your time today and best of luck in your next race.
All right, Mike. Appreciate it.